listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Hey there, and welcome to a new episode here on the Art of Homeschooling podcast. This one is for homeschoolers who want to invite more art and joy into their daily lives. So if that's you, today we're talking all about how to incorporate more creativity, more joy, more artistic activities and hands-on approaches into your homeschooling journey. I have 4 specific suggestions for you today that are going to help to keep this simple, inspiring, and doable. So let's dive in. Number 1, embrace the arts. One of the main principles of the Waldorf approach is the incorporation of the arts into daily life and into the lessons themselves. From painting and drawing to music and dance, the arts provide a creative outlet for self-expression and can bring joy and beauty into our daily lives. So I encourage you to embrace the arts by incorporating them into your daily homeschooling routine or rhythm. You could start each day, just for an example, you could start each day with a song or a poem, or bring that right as you start the lessons. Drawing or painting exercises in response to stories or history that you're learning, or set aside time each week for music lessons, for a family sing-along, for art lessons. Rudolf Steiner, who was the founder of the first Waldorf school, believed that the arts were the antidote to teaching that was too abstract. This was really his initial motivation for starting a school. He wanted to combat the abstract through a more lively approach that incorporated the arts. He said that the arts bring us joy as human beings, and they make the lessons and the learning more memorable, easier to remember. I've seen this play out over and over again in my own homeschool and with other children I've taught. I know for many of us, we think of the arts as a separate subject. I know I did because that's how I was taught when I was in school. But we want to see the arts as an integral part of the lessons and the learning. The arts are really a way for us, for our children, to respond to the world around them, and in homeschooling, for children to respond to what they're learning. Have you ever wondered why the Waldorf approach is built around the arts? I gave you a little hint here. For many of us, the artistic activities are what draw us into the Waldorf method to begin with. So if you want to hear more, I suggest you have a listen to episode 23 here on the podcast, where we explore the why behind the arts, as well as some practical ways you can weave what I call the lively arts into your homeschooling lessons. So if you want to hear more about the lively arts, I'll be sure to put a link to that episode in the show notes. Number 2, connect with nature. Another important aspect of Waldorf education is the connection with nature, because nature can inspire awe and wonder. It makes us curious about the world. Whether we're observing the changes of the season or planting seeds and watching them grow, being in nature grounds us and connects us like nothing else. Spending time outdoors can inspire creativity and bring a sense of peace and even tranquility to the moment and to our lives. Try taking your homeschooling outside and incorporate nature walks, gardening, or outdoor art projects even into your curriculum. We can also weave nature into our lessons themselves. In fact, science in the early grades is really nature study. We are teaching the skill of keen observation by spending time with nature, and the interest begins with that sense of awe and wonder. This skill of observation is so critical to the study of sciences such as chemistry and physics, which we bring in the middle school years. And it really all starts with nature experiences and nature study, which is great news for us as homeschoolers. Spending time outdoors and connecting with nature counts as school. That's exciting to me. One of my family's favorite experiences through the years has been raising monarch butterflies. We love looking on the milkweed plants as they begin to emerge and the flowers blossom to look for monarch caterpillars or even eggs. If you want to hear all about that journey that we've had as a family raising monarchs, check out episode 98 on the podcast, Why We Love Monarch Butterflies, which I'll also link to in the show notes. It's a great conversation between myself and my good friend Janet, who's the one who introduced me to this activity of raising monarchs. You might also enjoy episode 91, How Can We Restore Connections Through Nature Study? I'll link to both of those, as I've mentioned, in the show notes, which you can find at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 130. On to number 3, create a joyful environment. Creating a joyful and inspiring home environment is essential to Waldorf homeschooling. Consider incorporating elements of nature, such as plants, natural materials, into your home and your homeschooling space. Creating a nature table is a really fun way to do this, and it's so simple. You can just set up a little corner of a shelf or table with things that you bring in from outdoors. I like to think of a nature table as a way to mirror or reflect what's going on outside and then bring it inside. Another of my favorite ways to brighten up a space is with aromatherapy oils and a diffuser. I really think that there is something about a beautiful scent that makes us feel joy. Other ways of creating a joyful environment include storing supplies in baskets, making so that it looks appealing, displaying artwork and handcrafts that you and your children have created, and surrounding ourselves with objects that bring joy and beauty to daily life. This can be as simple as setting a beautiful table for us to sit down and have a meal together, or lighting a candle when you begin your homeschooling lessons. Just think about what brings you joy and then bring more of that into your daily life and your time that you're spending with your kiddos. I find that there's some specific times of year in the homeschool calendar when we want to refresh our space. It's often at the end of one year, the beginning of a new year, and sometimes halfway through. So be sure to set aside some time, put it on your calendar. If you want to join with me and other homeschoolers in this process, I have 2 programs that might help. One is the summer reset that we do each year at the end of May. We're really looking at wrapping up one year so that we can take a break during the summer and be ready for the next year. And the other program is the final step in Plan It Out, where we talk through setting up your learning environment. So the Plan It Out course is also part of the Inspired at Home community, and you can find details about Inspired at Home in the show notes. All right, our 4th and final tip here: follow your child's interests. I think it's really important for us to recognize what our children are interested in, what they're passionate about, and bring more of that into our homeschools, because it really can help spark more joy and excitement in the homeschooling journey. So whether it's a particular art form, a musical instrument, nature study, a particular topic, allowing your child to pursue their interests can bring a sense of purpose and ownership to the learning. And I really believe that with homeschooling, there is time for both aspects of, or both ways that children learn. And one is that where we have some lessons that are directed by us, the parent, but then there can be time each day for children to pursue their own interests. We want to find as many opportunities as we can to honor really and recognize what our children are most interested in. It's kind of like as a parent at mealtimes, when we want our child to try a new food, we also want to include something we know that they already like on the plate as well. So in homeschooling, be sure to layer the learning to include some of what your child is most interested in and some of what you're bringing to the table. And then as children grow through the grades, you can weave more and more interest-led learning into your homeschooling. And if you want to explore this idea further, I suggest you check out episode 95, Curiosity is the Best Remedy for Overwhelm. So in conclusion, Waldorf-Inspired homeschooling offers a unique approach to education, right? That incorporates the lively arts, nature, and joy into our daily lives. By embracing the arts, connecting with nature, creating a joyful environment, and following your child's interests, you can create a homeschooling experience that's both enriching and joyful. And do you want to know what I think is the very best way to learn how to do this, to bring more art and joy into homeschooling? Come to the live Taproot teacher training. This year in 2023, if you're listening to this in real time, it's the 17th annual Taproot gathering. And the magic of Taproot is really the warmth and community, homeschooling support, great conversations, and laughter that emerge during our 4-day weekend together. This is a live experience. We're all together at a summer camp. And Taproot is really a place where you are truly accepted wherever you are on the homeschooling journey, and your homeschool story is fully embraced. We'll gather for a long weekend of storytelling, self-reflection, main lessons, and 4 full days of workshops and learning together. If you're listening to this in the spring of 2023, you can get on the interest list to be first to hear all the details when registration opens on May 1st. You'll find a link to that in the show notes as well. So thanks so much for joining me today. You can find the show notes for this episode with links to all the resources I've mentioned here at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 130. I'll see you next time. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.